everyone. Our first speaker is Governor Stephen Rowe Lewis. Governor, he is the Sakakton, pronounce that.
Sakatone.
Governor, thank you and welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Good morning.
In chief as a basketball player as well, and I know we're in the midst of the NBA Finals. It's almost like having a ticket to attend the Democratic Party's version of the All-Star game here. So
I'll tell my wife you said that.
I'm very happy to be here.
Go Warriors.
And even though I'm a Phoenix Suns fan, we have a lot to build to become a Warrior or become a Cavalier, but it is an honor. And Skuk good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning. And I would like to start my remarks by emphasizing how proud I am to be a Democrat. As a tribal leader, I need to focus my attention on accomplishing goals for my citizens, regardless of any party affiliation. But as I watch what happened in Orlando last weekend and the sentiments expressed by various politicians and people, I felt proud as a Democrat that the leaders of our party immediately expressed sympathy and support for the victims. We understand we may differ in our religious beliefs, our sexual orientation, and our ethnicity, but we respect everyone as humans and know that each of us plays a vital role in our communities. Today I'm here to make sure that my own community, the Native American community, is included in the Democratic platform. Like other communities of color, we have our own distinctive cultures and traditions, but we are fundamentally unique in that we have also a political government-to-government relationship with the United States. So the Democratic platform should include us within any policies that impact other communities of color, but it should also recognize our status as governments and the fact that the United States has a legal responsibility to us as governments. The Democratic Party has been steadfast in its efforts to protect every individual's right to vote in our federal elections. We need to continue that effort. Within my own community, we constantly struggle to make sure that the records of the county registrar are accurate and that when necessary, our people have access to provisional ballots. State and local governments should be required to coordinate with tribal governments prior to any federal election to ensure our citizens are properly identified on their records. The Democratic Party's commitment to renewable energy, addressing climate change, is consistent with the goals of Native America. These issues have always been important to Native cultures. Our creation stories, customs, and traditions embody the need to respect all earthly elements and preserve them for our future generations, our 7 generations. As tribal governments, we have to balance our customs and traditions with the need to build economies and jobs for our people, opportunities for our people, and hope. But in doing so, we look for sustainable and multi-generational approaches as well. Too often, Native America is left out of renewable energy programs, which makes no sense given that the Department of Energy estimates that wind power from tribal lands could satisfy 32% of total U.S. electricity demand. And tribal solar resources could generate twice the total amount of energy needed to power this country. Tribal governments need to be included at the beginning when these policies and programs are being developed rather than fighting to participate afterwards. Tribal communities, more so than any other community, are impacted by climate change. Some of our Alaska Native communities are in the midst of having to entirely relocate because their permafrost land base is disappearing through melting. In some Native American communities in the Northeast, climate change is changing the entire ecosystem that tribal people rely on for sustenance and customary practices. Climate change is causing historic droughts in my region and across the West. As Congress and the federal and state governments are dialoguing to figure out how to address this problem, tribal governments are not being given a seat at the table. We have legal rights to resources such as water that are directly affected by the solutions being discussed, and we must have a seat at this all-important table. My people, the Yakima O'odham, have the highest rates of diabetes in the world. This is due to the theft of our water in the last century. As a result, we lost access to our traditional foods and diet. The federal government's response was to provide us highly processed foods, and the result is our dramatic health disparities compared to the rest of the world. Too often we have to spend our time reacting to critical health and safety problems that are unintended consequences of federal policies. That is why we need to be part of the dialogue, as well as development of the solutions. Given the significant impacts that federal and state policies can have on tribal communities and their legal rights, I respectfully ask that this committee consider including a section within the platform specifically addressing the rights of tribal governments. Our unique political relationship with the federal government supports this request. Thank you for considering my comments. Masapa.
Thank you very much, Chief. Thank you. Governor, you said we must have a seat at the table. I guarantee you have a seat at this table.
Thank you. And seeing Ms. Deborah Parker from the Tulalip tribe, I really appreciate
She has been absolutely phenomenal. I was telling her yesterday that I have, just listening to her questions and our discussions have helped me tremendously in educating me, and I'm sure other members, of the issues that confront your population. All right? Ms. Parker.
Yes. Tigwitsi, thank you once again, and thank you to the members of the committee. It is indeed an honor to serve at this level with so many heroes here, bright, intelligent, movers and shakers, progressive people. So it's an honor to be here with such distinguished representatives and leaders in their own right. So once again, thank you. Thank you for having us here on your traditional territory, Governor Lewis. My question for you is, you know, we have Northwest tribes, Eastern tribes, Southern tribes, Alaska Native, Hawaiian Native. We have tribes from all different regions with languages, customs, issues here. In your region, water is a big issue, energy resources. So you've got the sun. In the Northwest, we don't, which right now I'm okay with that. So you guys may want to visit us to cool down. But you know, looking at all of these issues and trying to work on the platform for our Native American nations, our indigenous nations, what do you see as the top issue? What do you see as the most critical issue facing Indian country, as we say, Native America?
Facing Indian country, Mr. Chair, Ms. Parker, we have to, it all begins with sovereignty. It all begins with our government-to-government relationship moving forward. And of course, we're going to have a changing of administrations. And hopefully, God willing, it's going to be a Democratic administration moving forward. And we need to have that continued commitment to this concept of sovereignty articulated in the Constitution, also within U.S. policy. And we need to have true self-determination. We need to have a positive, not paternalistic, but an equal working relationship with the federal government, with the Department of Interior, the Bureau of Indian Affairs, with under the Health and Human Services. We get, as you know, Ms. Parker, we get most of our federal health care resources through the Indian Health Service. And tribes need to have that support moving forward, a true partnership reflective of this relationship of sovereignty. Ms. Parker.
Thank you.
We'll have one more question, and that's from Mr. Ellison. Congressman Ellison.
Governor, thank you for your presentation. I'm from Minnesota. We're very proud of our Native communities there. And in 2012, we had a kind of an ugly incident at Red Lake where some Republican challengers would just go onto the reservation and just gratuitously challenge Native American voters and say that they didn't have the proper credentials and then force them to prove that they did. The tribal government found them to be a nuisance and escorted them off the reservation, but not before they had intimidated a number of voters. You know, they were making claims like, if you have back child support, you can't vote, stuff like that. Is this a phenomenon we're seeing at reservations around the nation? Is this a thing we're seeing, that there's systematic efforts to intimidate Native American voters? We saw it in Minnesota. I'm curious to know, is this something you've been seeing? Is this something we should really pay special attention to?
Mr. Chair, Congressman, thank you for that question. Yes, most states that have a significant Native American population, Native American reservations, you're seeing that dynamic. Voter suppression, you're seeing states that are hostile towards expanding and protecting the right to vote on Native reservations and on border towns. Arizona is, I would say, is ground zero as well. Of course, we have a federal lawsuit pending in regards to Native American voter rights moving forward. And so because we have the majority of Native Americans, you have the Navajo Nation, which is one of the largest, the largest Native nation, not only in the United States, but spans 4 states, and in Arizona, has a large voting demographic of Native Americans, both in the northern part of the reservation and also where my reservation is located in the Thonottam Nation, the southern Arizona part. And we have seen some very strident practices of voter native suppression, and that needs to be added to the agenda for action and for protection of the natives' right to vote moving forward. Thank you.
Kevin, just one last question.
Thank you very much for your remarks on climate change. If anyone in the committee has any doubts, there's no question but that the emergence of indigenous communities at the head of the fight about climate change over the last 4 or 5 years has been maybe the single most important part of the growth of that movement, the explosive growth on both sides of the border in North America, all sides of the borders in North America. Just many, many thanks for that advocacy and witness. We would not have stopped anything, the Keystone Pipeline or anything else, without enormous, enormous work in Native communities.
Governor, thank you very much. You know, as you were talking, I could not help but think that we have to keep these coalitions going.
Yes.
Because there are a lot of people who find themselves in the same situations with regard, say, for example, to voting rights. And it is the coalitions and people working together that will make a difference. And thank you. And again, you know, you got a seat, a major seat at the table now. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And we will work forward just in a very enthusiastic manner with the Democratic Party moving forward. I know that historically Native Americans have voted Democrat, and we will continue to do so. We have, you know, such a great leadership moving forward. We have some Native Americans that are running for public office nationally as well, and we need to encourage that moving forward. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.